works? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Josh Boissevain. I am the staff attorney for the Colorado Water Trust. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about Colorado's in-stream flows. I'm going to start with a little bit of historical context, continuing on from the previous slide. I'll talk about how the in-stream flow program works, and I'll talk about some examples.
Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
It's just, it looks funny, and I don't want it to look funny anymore.
Oh,
Oh, that's how it's going to look.
that's all right.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So I'll talk about some tools that we use, and then if I've got time, I'll walk through some examples of in-stream flow projects that we've worked on in partnership with the Colorado Water Conservation Board and that we've done on our own. So just a little bit of background about the Colorado Water Trust. We're a nonprofit organization, and we work to restore flows to streams and rivers around the state. We started in 2001 when a group of attorneys and engineers got together and decided they wanted to come up with a way to amplify the state's in-stream flow program. We work with water users around the state on a voluntary basis, and we compensate them for the water that we put into the stream based on a market value. And everything we do is tailored to the specific stream, the stream's needs, and to the water rights that we use. And again, the prior appropriation system is really important, and it's really important that we work within that system. So just a little bit of history, going back way before 1973, when the in-stream flow program was enacted. Starting back in 1876, this is when the Colorado Constitution was enacted, and it gave every citizen of Colorado the right to divert unappropriated water. Moving forward to 1878, the state legislature got together and came up with a system of priorities and a way to distribute water among the water users that existed. This was essentially limited to agriculture and irrigation use. Other uses would come along later. But only a few years later, this new law was put to a test when drought brought about conflict on the Poudre River. The state legislature came back and came up with a way to administer those priorities and delegated the authority to do so to water courts and water officials. In 1903, the state legislature came back and basically expanded the Adjudication Act to all beneficial uses except for in-stream flow rights. And 70 years later, after all these other water uses had a chance to get water rights and get that senior priority, the in-stream flow program was enacted. So the Colorado in-stream flow program works within the prior appropriation system because the state of Colorado does not recognize the public trust doctrine. As Jennifer mentioned, the CWCB has exclusive authority for the to obtain in-stream flows. There's two kinds of water rights that the in-stream flow program uses. There are appropriative water rights and acquisition in-stream flow water rights. The appropriative, when the CWCB appropriates an in-stream flow program, it's basically just to preserve the environment, and that's essentially a minimum stream flow, just enough water to keep the backs of fishes wet. But when they acquire a water right and put that in the in-stream flow program, they can use that to preserve or improve the natural environment. So essentially that gives them a little bit more flexibility to use more water, but it still has to be based on it has to have a reasonable basis. So here you can see a full map of Colorado showing all the in-stream flow reaches throughout the state. When you're looking at this, about 97% of those are appropriations, where about 3% of those are acquisitions. So let's see. Another important thing to keep in mind is that for both kinds of water rights, there's an administrative process that has to go through board approval at the CWCB, and there's also a judicial process that you have to go through in water court to change the water right or to claim a new water right. Okay, so I'm going to walk through an example of how both types of in-stream flows work. But just to give you, to set a baseline, here's a stream. The stream starts at 10 cubic feet per second, or 10 CFS. And you've got two water rights on the stream. You've got a senior water right that's diverting 2 CFS, and then downstream you have a more junior user diverting 4 CFS. And so by the time everybody's satisfied, the stream is pretty diminished, and that may or may not be enough to preserve the habitat there. So with in-stream flow appropriation, the CWCB goes to water court and appropriates a new water right. So it gets a priority date of the year that the application was filed with the water court. And as we know, the in-stream flow program started in 1973, so 1990 for a priority date is pretty common for an in-stream flow appropriation. So let's say this 4 CFS is added to the stream in addition to what's already there. You have the same water users who are senior to this 1990 priority date. They both have the right to divert from this in-stream flow program. So you can see that it's diminished by the time it gets past these 2 users. Nevertheless, it's still augmenting the stream. So, you know, one of the downside to this kind of in-stream flow appropriation is that it's not protected. It can be diverted. But the benefit is that it's significantly cheaper and easier to do than an acquisition, and it can still preserve the environment in case future appropriators come by and claim new water rights. So it essentially preserves the status quo of the stream. Okay, so next we have an acquisition. So in this case, the CWCB acquires a senior agricultural water right, and that water right no longer is diverted. CWCB goes to water court, changes the water right to include in-stream flow as a beneficial use. That's really important. But when they do that, and they put the water in the stream, it maintains that 1890 priority, which is senior to both of these users. So because this one is senior, these 2 junior water right users don't have the right to divert it. So even if they're diverting all of the natural stream flow or all of the rest of the stream flow, they can't touch this. So this is really nice. The downside of this is that it can be very expensive to go through the water court process. So the Water Trust has, in cooperation with the CWCB, and also on our own, we've completed 25 projects around the state, adding nearly 75,000 acre feet of water to over 600 miles of rivers and streams in Colorado. And there are, even though there's 2 types of in-stream flow rights, there's a lot of different kinds of tools that we can use to put water back into the stream. Some of these help the acquisitions program, and some of these are outside of the in-stream flow program completely. But you'll notice that even though there's a lot of these tools, they fit into kind of 3 categories. There's the permanent type, the flexible type, and the temporary type. And if you're really interested in how all of these tools work, the Colorado Water Trust, we published a white paper a couple years ago that outlines all of the different tools that can be used to put water back in the stream. So I will talk a little bit about some of the projects that we've done to support the in-stream flow program. I think one of the coolest projects that the Water Trust has done is here on the Little Cimarron. It's called the McKinley Ditch Project. It's located on Little Cimarron River, just upstream, basically of where the Black Canyon of the Gunnison starts. We permanently acquired a agricultural water right, and what we've done is we've come up with a split season irrigation use. So we went to water court, and what we do is we lease the water back to the farmer on the land, and we allow them to do the first part of the summer season to irrigate that land, get a hay crop, and then the second season, when flows, the second part of the summer, when the flows of the stream are low or non-existent, we pay the farmer not to put that water on the field, and instead we'll use it for the flow. So this is nice because it prevents buy and dry, it allows agriculture to continue in partnership, and it's flexible. Some years we don't need to use water to restore flows, and the farmer can use it. Some years we need it both for both parts of the season. So we'll take the water, and again, this is working in cooperation with the CWCB and with the farmer to determine whether that's useful. We also are doing a impact assessment of soil health and productivity of this kind of split season irrigation use. We have a similar project in Tamichi Creek, which is this particular ditch is located about halfway between Monarch Pass and Gunnison, just off of Highway 50. This one is also split season irrigation use, so similar idea. The difference is that this is a temporary program. McKinley Ditch was permanent. We bought that water. With this one, we enrolled it in what's called a 3 in 10 temporary loan. So this is really nice because you don't have to go to water court to do this, but it's only temporary. It means once you're enrolled in this program, within a period of 10 years, you can use it for 3 of those years. So this works because we don't need that water in the stream every single year. It gives us some flexibility to put the water in when it's needed, but also save money and keep the water and keep the land in production as well. Another project that we've done on the Alamosa River, a little southwest of Alamosa itself, we acquired senior rights in a reservoir, terrace reservoir, and we changed those water rights to in-stream flow use. And we can release those in November when the stream flows get really, really low. So this is nice. I mean, the nice thing about stored water is it's in the reservoir and can be used when you want to use it. So it's not like a direct flow, but it's nice in that way. Okay, so the final one is a kind of project that we use that is not with the in-stream flow program. It's still within the prior appropriation system, and it works a lot like a in-stream flow, but it's not. So let's say we've got this stream here, and it's severely impaired because of either municipal or agricultural use. So what we'll do is we will lease or buy water from a reservoir, and then we will transport it downstream and give it to a different beneficial use downstream. So the flow is going to be in this stream where it's needed most, but then it's sent downstream to a beneficial use. And then once, usually, so we've done this on the Yampa River. We lease water from Stagecoast Reservoir and send that down to Steamboat to use to improve their water quality. And then the next one I'll talk about we've done on the 15-mile reach just along Grand Junction and Palisade. So with this project, the 15-mile reach starts from Palisade and goes down to the confluence with the Gunnison River. It's home to 4 endangered fish species, and because of other diversions upstream, this part of the river can get pretty low. So what we do is we lease water from Root Eye Reservoir up here near Basalt, Colorado, and we transport it all the way down to be used here at the Grand Valley Power Plant to make power for Palisade. Because hydropower generation does not consume the water, almost all of that water gets put back in the stream and they get sent down through this in-stream flow reach. So it's a really great project. It's something that we can do kind of spur of the moment. It doesn't take a lot of the administrative and judicial requirements that the other kind of in-stream flow program uses. And we've used it in 2019, 2020, and 2021 for quite a bit of water. So we didn't use it this year, but it's always a possibility for next year. So with that, I will take any kind of clarifying questions. Yeah.